By the year 2026, the concept of a golden handshake and a peaceful 30-year retirement is officially dead. We are currently living through the largest psychological and financial rug pull in human history. Every day, you were told to work 40 hours a week for 40 years, put 15% into a tax-deferred account, and wait for the magic of compound interest to grant you a life of leisure at age 65. This is the standard path, and it is a mathematical hallucination. The truth is that traditional retirement is a structural Ponzi scheme designed to harvest your peak productive years in exchange for a future that the system has no intention of delivering. They are lying to you about the math, they are lying to you about the taxes, and they are lying to you about the stability of the currency. Today, I'm going to prove to you that following the traditional retirement model is the fastest way to ensure you spend your final years in relative poverty, and why the system needs you to keep believing in a finish line that is being moved 10 miles back every single year. You aren't failing to save enough. You are playing a game where the house changes the rules every time you get close to winning. The reason you fell for this trap is rooted in a psychological phenomenon known as intergenerational social proof, combined with hyperbolic discounting. You saw your grandparents retire on a pension, so you assume the mechanism still works. The system exploits this nostalgia to keep you compliant. From a young age, you are conditioned to believe that life is a linear progression: school, career, retirement, death. This creates a psychological sunk cost fallacy. Because you've already spent 10 or 20 years contributing to the system, you feel you must continue or else those years were wasted. But the world has changed. The system was designed in an era of high birth rates and low life expectancy. Today, that pyramid has flipped. We have a shrinking workforce supporting a ballooning elderly population, and the math has reached its breaking point. It is not your fault you feel like the goalposts are moving. The system was literally built on the assumption that you would die much sooner than you actually will. You are fighting a biological and economic reality that the government and the banks are too terrified to admit. Let's look at the hidden math that your HR department's retirement seminar will never show you. We are going to look at scenario A, the loyal saver. We will call him Toby. Toby earns $80,000 a year in 2026. He follows the golden rule and saves 15%, $12,000 a year, into a traditional 401k for 40 years. Assuming a 7% annual return, Toby's screen shows roughly $2.4 million by the time he hits 65. Toby thinks he's a millionaire. He thinks he's safe. But here is the Ponzi math this system hides. First, we have real inflation. If the cost of basic goods, housing, energy, and medical care inflates at an average of 5%, not the doctored CPI numbers, Toby's $2.4 million in 2066 will have the purchasing power of only about $340,000 in today's money. He has spent 40 years of his life to end up with a nest egg that barely buys a mid-sized sedan and a few years of groceries. Second, we have the tax bomb. Toby deferred his taxes when rates were at historic lows, but in 2066, the government is desperate to fund the Social Security shortfall. They hike the effective tax rate on his income withdrawals to 40%. Toby's $2.4 million instantly becomes $1.4 million. After 40 years of labor, Toby discovers he was just a temporary custodian for the IRS. He took all the market risk, and they took nearly half the reward. Now, let's look at scenario B, the truth. This is the sovereign operator. The operator understands that the currency is being debased. Instead of locking their money in a tax-deferred cage, they prioritize liquid cash flow and scarce assets. They aren't waiting for 65 to live. They are building a life they don't need to retire from. While Toby is praying for the S&P 500 to stay green so he can afford his heating bill in 40 years, the operator is already free because they refuse to store their life's work in a depreciating medium controlled by a third party. Consider the real-life example of Toby. Toby is 58 years old. He has done everything right. He has $1 million in his retirement account. He feels the finish line is in sight. But then the 2026 economic shift happens. The government, facing a debt crisis, decides to adjust the retirement age to 70 to ensure the sustainability of the system. Simultaneously, the cost of his private health insurance doubles.
Toby realizes that his $1 million, which seemed like a fortune 10 years ago, is now barely enough to cover his basic overhead. He is paper rich, but life poor. He realizes that he has traded his youth, his health, and his time for a pile of digital credits that are losing value faster than he can spend them. Toby is a victim of the retirement mirage. He spent his life chasing a horizon that recedes every time he takes a step forward. This is the reality of the collapsing Ponzi scheme. The system requires a constant influx of new investors, young workers, to pay out the original investors, the current retirees. But with birth rates at record lows and automation replacing jobs, the influx is drying up. To keep the scheme going, the government must print more money, which causes inflation, which devalues the savings of the people currently in the scheme. It's a feedback loop of failure. In 2026, we are seeing the final stages of this collapse. Pensions are being cut, required minimum distributions are being increased, and the value of the dollar is being sacrificed to keep the ghost of the middle class alive for one more election cycle. The reality check is this. You cannot save your way to freedom using a system that is designed to devalue your savings. To survive the collapse of the traditional retirement model, you must adopt a defensive, sovereign strategy. Step 1. Stop believing in the lump sum myth. $1 million is not a plan. It is a target for the IRS. Your goal is not a balance. It is uncorrelated income. You need money that comes in whether you're working or not, and you need it to come from multiple sources. Step 2. Maximize the match, then exit. If your employer offers a 401k match, take the free money. It's the only part of the math that works. After that, stop. Every dollar you put into a traditional retirement account beyond the match is a dollar you're giving to a system that is likely to tax it at double the current rate when you try to take it out. Step 3. Invest in human capital and agility. The greatest retirement plan is the ability to produce value in any economy. In 2026, a specific skill set or a niche business is worth 10 times more than a diversified stock portfolio. Your ability to pivot is your real security. Step 4. Shift to hard assets. Own things that the government cannot print and that people will always need. Land, energy, specialized equipment, or equity in private cash-flowing businesses. The traditional retirement trap is a scam because it turns your most valuable years into a sacrifice for a future that is mathematically impossible to sustain. It keeps you on the treadmill working for a boss you don't like, to buy stuff you don't need, to impress people you don't know, all while hoping the government will be honest with you in 40 years. You're being sold the dream of a peaceful old age so you don't notice you've been robbed of your vibrant youth. Your 401k is not a fortress, it is a hostage. If you want to be truly free, you have to be willing to look irresponsible to the people who are following the herd over the cliff. The path to real wealth isn't paved with 40 years of compliance. It's paved with the courage to build your own economy while the old one burns. But the retirement trap is just one wing of the system. The same institutions that want you to lock your money away for 40 years are the ones convincing you that your starter home is an investment while they charge you 3 times the value of the house in interest. If you think the retirement Ponzi is bad, wait till you see the math on the starter home trap that is currently destroying the wealth building potential of the next generation. Stop waiting for 65. Start living in the truth. Because in a system built on empty promises, the only way to win is to own the present.